Your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Tuesday, June 11th. It's time for the Power Hour. We're opening the phone lines right now. If you have any maintenance-related calls, jump in and join us. 855-950-3835 is the number. If you're listening on the app, you can hit that Call Now button. If you've got anything at all to do with maintenance, pick up the phone and join us. We're going to hear from the team from Pittsburgh Power, and then we will get to your calls and questions. Looks like they're already starting to come in, so you better jump in here quick. I think this is Bruce. Bruce, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
We might as well just bring in everybody at once, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Is this, who is this, Bert and Ernie?
Shake and bake, brother. Shake and bake. I don't know what Bert sounds like anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while, huh?
Yeah. A couple hundred things ago.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, I've got a couple things. I'm going to go first today. Bruce, how would you like to, let me see if I can find this again. How would you like to have to plan for this move? This is in Ohio. I guess several of these have already happened. This is the first time I've seen it, and this is the biggest one so far. They're moving the first of 4 loads, and here are the dimensions on this. This is going to an Intel site, so they're picking it up on the river down in southern Ohio. Then they have to go up to New Albany, which is closer up to Columbus. It's an air processor known as a cold box used in silicon chip manufacturing. It's 23 feet tall, 20 feet wide, 280 feet long, and weighs 916,000 pounds.
Wow. I was just reading about some of those moves throughout the world this morning.
Were you really?
You brought that up.
Wow.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, this is crazy. It's going to take, what did they say, like a week? Because it has to go so slow. But the route, I'm looking at the route, and I know that area really well. I used to run all over that area with Aldi's. This is the craziest route I've ever seen, but you get thinking about it, just the 20-foot tall creates some real issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of power lines come down.
Yeah. Bridges that you just can't make it under no matter what. So the route is just, but then you start thinking, I mean, this is all like 2-lane state routes. Now you start thinking, how do you get around corners if you're 280 feet long?
That's right. That's exactly right.
I'm sure that trailer has to steer from the back as well, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
That there's got to be all kinds of crazy things going on with that. You know, this reminds me, and it was funny, the last time I brought this up, this was a long time ago. Joel remembered it as well, and Joel grew up and started trucking not far from where I did in Ohio. There was a move there where they decided they really didn't want to get permits and pay for all that, so they did it at night, about 600,000 pounds, not permitted. They had a pusher truck in the back, and they actually got caught because they were struggling to get up a hill on a 2-lane. Yeah, 600,000 pounds, and they tried to move it without permits.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Ken, when I was with Bankcard Heavy Haul, we tried to move a Manitowoc without permits, and we had normally aspirated Max, R models, R models, U models, and it got hung up on the railroad tracks. And so they sent a second truck out to push, and both trucks spun drive shafts off. And so there we sat with the low boy on the railroad tracks.
Ugh.
No permit.
Yeah, crazy.
No permit that I knew of. Now, keep in mind, I was in my early 20s, and I was in dispatch there, and I wasn't privy to everything.
Yeah.
I have this video up right now, the world's largest moves, 4,800 tons. This one is, it's playing right now. Just crazy. There's one showing the space shuttle being moved, and
Yeah.
it's amazing what they're able to do. But yeah,
Yeah, really is.
it would be fun to plan that when you're young. I'm too old to plan stuff like that. It takes too much thinking.
You know, for maybe about a year, 9 months to a year or so, I had I had kind of when I was an agent and then a broker, and then I brought in a partner, and he specialized in heavy haul stuff. Moved a lot of big machinery out of Cleveland, and so I kind of got worked into it and started helping a little and learning it, and I ended up doing most of the permitting. And it was crazy how long it could take sometimes to plan some of those moves. And those weren't outrageous, but that was, we had one truck and trailer of our own. It was an 11 axle. So some pretty big stuff. But the permitting process and scheduling and all that can get pretty tough. I did it for about a year. That was a long time ago.
Well, the problem is you're dealing with government employees.
Exactly.
Who also spend time getting permits. And like I said, I was probably 22, 23 years old.
Same for me, right?
Said, why do you want to send us across this bridge and across this road with this load? And they're just looking at me.
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, these people are idiots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
That's.
I'm just glad I don't have to deal with people like that.
Yeah. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm going to put it out because I keep an eye on this kind of stuff. The next pandemic could be the bird flu. They're going after livestock. This one really kind of makes me crazy. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but there's a group, it's a co-op. They're in Michigan. All regenerative farming, animals are raised properly. They were growing really fast. It started with one small farm, and then they were growing so fast that they brought in several other small farms, created this co-op. We just talking about the government. If you've ever seen the rules on how you have to process animals, it's insane. And it's all to benefit the big processors and to keep the small processors out. Do you know there's a rule? I swore this can't possibly be true. I read it in one of Joel Salatin's books, and we've had Joel on the show many times. If you have a meat processing plant, there has to be a separate bathroom for the USDA inspector only. Now, in a big processing plant, the USDA inspector is on site. He works there, and he gets his own bathroom.
Know where that was at when you're raised in the country, where that was?
Yeah, exactly. But if you have a small processing plant, you still have to provide that bathroom, even though the inspector doesn't work there and only shows up once in a while. Just makes it that much more difficult. Here, this co-op, all it says is we got some of the rules mixed up about processing these animals. And when you look at the rules, you can see why. Here's what they made them do. 2,000 pounds worth of hogs. They had to put them in the back of a truck, pour used motor oil over them, and the inspector followed them to the landfill where they had to dispose of them. Not allowed to send them, to maybe a dog food processing plant or, charity or whatever. You screwed up. You got to get rid of all 15 of these animals.
Wow.
Yeah. There were more stories. They confiscated $90,000 worth of raw dairy and won't allow them to sell that either. This is happening a lot.
Sometimes when you said, "Boy, I wish I was young again." Right now, with the way our country is, you think,
I know.
If I'd ever want to be young again.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, Bruce, what do you got today?
Well, I had a gentleman send me a message on Saturday about a miss coming and going, miss in an Acer cat, and he was on the New York Thruway and had to be in Texas for Monday or Tuesday, and 22 messages back and forth. He did 22, I did 22. But he wasn't seemed to be willing to help himself. And I fell victim to that. I should have not responded so much. Whenever I saw that, I gave him people to call and different things, and so then he wanted to call me this morning, and now he's going to call me tomorrow, and what time are you going to be in the office? And just that doesn't work.
Right.
So that's a little frustrating.
Bruce, that happens, Bruce, because you are so generous with your time.
Yeah, but you try to help.
I know.
Okay.
Phone call was this person older or younger?
Don't know.
Okay.
Haven't spoke with them.
And I'm seeing it across the board. I'm not. This isn't just a generational thing, but it's worse each successive generation. It's almost like we're teaching people to be helpless.
Yes. Well, old saying, God helps those that help themselves.
Exactly.
Sometimes, you got to put your big boy pants on and get dirty and help yourself.
Yeah.
So today, interesting phone call. A guy called. He's one of our remote tuners and a catalyst dealer from Iowa, Ron Myers. And his son is building a truck just to tow his pulling pickup. So he's redoing an old R700 Mack with a 600 horse V8 Mack in it. And the truck came with 417 gears.
Oof.
Those old heavy Mack rears. Remember?
Yeah.
Got that Camelback spring.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to. The father found a cutoff of 355s off of a Freightliner, and the frame will weld right up to the Mack frame, same width. But the son said, "I want to keep it all original." But the original engine was a big Cam 290.
Wow.
Now it's not original. He took the 290 out and put the Mack in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, had another guy. His Packard went down in 2020. I don't know if it was a Kenworth or Pete. And he couldn't get parts for it, so he found an older 600, Signature 600 ISX Cummins in it with 308 gears, and his saying was, "I absolutely love how this combination runs." So
Nice.
that's good. That's what I have for right now.
All right.
Hey, I've got a call I got to take. I'm going to let you talk to the other two.
All right. Leroy, what do you got today?
Well, I've been spending the last couple of days digging more in on CAN bus stuff. It's kind of things that we talk about on the radio, and obviously it's in every truck, and pretty much you see it outside of trucking now. You see it in the heavy duty industry. You're starting to see it in some cars, electric vehicles, and most recently what kind of interests me to look more into it as far as like from a programming and a engineering standpoint was I wanted to get this fuel flow sensor for the dyno so that we could use that to make an equation with fuel flow and torque output to get a brake specific fuel consumption number. Right now we're just using it from the data link, but to actually get like a measured fuel flow I think is more accurate than just using whatever the ECM says. I know a lot of trucks are pretty close when you go to like the pump and it says that you use 10 gallons and you actually use 10 gallons or, whatever it's supposed to be. But I'm just digging into trying to do some programming on it. I got a small Raspberry Pi, which is a small Linux computer, and we're I'm back there. It took me a couple days to just get it up and going, but at that point, just tearing apart some CAN bus messages from a Cummins ECM I have on the bench, and hopefully learning about that, and then maybe we can get a brake-specific fuel consumption number on the dyno, which would A, help us do more tuning, and then B, I think help us in the long run as far as determining whether somebody actually has low fuel mileage or not, just from like an engine standpoint. But that's what I've been working on.
Got it. All right. Eric,
Good morning, Kevin.
good morning. What's on your mind today?
Wonderful. I'm doing good. Got a couple things I wanted to go over. Same theory though on everything I want to talk about. Like a lot of the trucks we have in the shop now are older trucks, and it's been an ongoing thing where a lot of people were just putting money into the older stuff, restoring it, keeping it on the road. This morning I was reading an article from Toyota, who makes 50% of all the Chinese vehicles in China. They are the largest car producer in the world. They're coming out with an ammonia-based engine. Now, this was actually released about 6 months ago, but what brought it back up was they're doubling down on their commitment to it. They're getting away from EVs. They want to go with an ammonia-based fuel. They kind of trash talk the hydrogen, the EV stuff. It will never fly. Like, ammonia is so corrosive, the EPA would never allow it here in the U.S. or any of North America, I should say. All these new modern fuels or different ways to do it, renewable sources, I almost think it's a fad. I think it's going to come full circle, and we're still going to be diesel.
Well, here's why it's happening. And you're right. I have some numbers on this that will absolutely shock you. It's happening because the government's pushing for it. And there's all kinds of money, and companies have started from nothing and grown, incredibly rich with just government money on this kind of stuff. Here's how bad this is, though. First off, one of the problems is we can't try to bring in 10 alternative fuels all at the same time. And that's where we're at now. We're scattered all over the place. We have battery electric, hybrid electric, hydrogen electric, natural gas, ammonia, all these different fuels. And we have to have fueling stations. That's not going to be easy. I mean, there has to be a dominant technology here to move forward, but none of them are worth moving forward on yet. Do you want some numbers on hydrogen? I finally have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Nikola hydrogen electric truck, and one of the things you can't get on these still to this day, I can't get what a real price of this truck is. At one point when it first came out, they were talking it was $475,000. But there's also huge government incentives on these. Like if you buy one of these in California, I think when you add up all the tax breaks you might get, it's like $250,000 off. But that's our money. It's not the manufacturer saying we'll sell the truck for less. It's the government kicking in a whole bunch of our money so somebody else can buy one of these trucks. That's just wrong. That's got to stop. But yeah. So even just throw out the cost of the truck itself, though, which you can't. But for now, let's do that. So here's some of the math. And we went through this yesterday. So this truck holds 70 kilograms of hydrogen. And it turns out hydrogen, once it's converted to electric, has almost the same amount of energy as diesel. It's actually pretty close. I was shocked by that. But you still have to do some math. Basically, if the truck gets 7 miles to the gallon on diesel, it's going to have to get 8 miles to the gallon on hydrogen to be comparable. That's quantity of energy, though. Now, here's the math. It costs just like $2,200 to fill up that 70 kilograms of hydrogen right now. That's the price. $2,200 for a fill up. You get 400 miles. Who in their right mind thinks we should even be pursuing this? That is $5 a mile in fuel cost. Diesel trucks right now, I have all kinds of people running under 40 cents a mile on diesel. That's with fuel tax. So when are we going to start taxing the hydrogen?
Yeah.
$5 a mile in fuel cost. Come on.
Even if you did decide to go down that path and buy it and go through it, take the government assistance, how could you operate your own business at that kind of fuel charges?
You can't. You absolutely can't. The average dry van freight rate today is $2 a mile.
That'll be the next thing. The government will kick in.
They're going to have to.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. And again, yeah, it becomes our. Now, here's the other problem. Nikola, who's the only one producing a hydrogen electric truck right now. And oh, by the way, there are no hydrogen stations yet. They're fueling these trucks with mobile units.
So they have to use diesel fuel to haul the hydrogen.
Of course they do. Right. $5 a mile. And you have to have a mobile truck to bring you the fuel, and the fuel's not being taxed yet. So this is totally unworkable. But Nikola itself is such an unstable company. The original CEO is in jail. That's how bad the company was when it got started. Everything about their original truck was a lie. And I wrote a big blog post about it way back then and pointed out all of the problems with their truck. And they were big problems. And I questioned whether it was even real or not. You know why he's in jail? One of the biggest reasons? They had all kinds of video of the truck out on the highway, except it was all faked.
Coasting down.
Yeah, it was coasting when they.
Is that the one coasting down a hill?
Yep. So he's in jail. That's how bad. So the company is really, really shaky. And what happens that somebody bought 75 of their trucks with a bunch of our money. What happens when the company goes out of business?
Yeah. This is almost like a repeat of all the DPF companies that were retrofitting them in California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of those companies are gone. We fixed a lot of them here in-house, I remember, and some of the horror stories you heard from these customers, it was heart-wrenching, like how much money they spent, zero support. There was nobody left to work on them out there because all those companies went by the wayside.
So here's I've questioned hydrogen electric from the very start. Why are we even messing with that? Why don't we do what we've done with cars, which is go from hybrids to plug-in hybrids to full electric? If that's the path they want to take to non-internal combustion, that would make so much more sense. We've already done it. You don't need a whole bunch of new filling stations. The truck could run on diesel, could produce electric like a hybrid. Eventually it becomes a plug-in hybrid, and then it could become a plug-in alone. But let's just look at the two trucks that are kind of leading this. Nikola is out there with their hydrogen. Tesla's out there with their full battery electric. You know that all of their claims are best case scenario. Let's just start there. I mean, that when they say you're going to get 400 to 450 miles out of this hydrogen, that's best case. You know it is. Same thing with Tesla when they say you're going to get 500 miles out of our first charge. You can get another 400 miles on top of that with the 30-minute charge. And the cost of that electric is higher than diesel, but nowhere near the cost of this hydrogen. The cost of electric is possibly doable, and we'll just have to see on that. But we have to start taxing that as well. But why would we mess with a hydrogen truck that needs a hydrogen filling station and only gets me 400 miles when we already have a battery electric that can do that? Why would we mess with hydrogen? I don't even understand why we're going down this road. It's so much more complicated. And eventually, I can't see why we won't be full battery electric at some point. Why would we want to build out this big hydrogen network for now?
That's crazy.
It doesn't even make sense. You can fuel the hydrogen truck maybe 10 minutes faster than Tesla's 30-minute charge. It wasn't even 10 minutes. They said the average time to fill the hydrogen truck was 23 minutes. Now, that's with a mobile truck and nobody waiting in front of you. So if you have to start putting in filling stations and you know there's not going to be enough of them, now you're going to be waiting to fuel. So I just don't know why, if we're going to go down this road, why we just don't stick with diesel over electric until we get to full electric.
The reason
So
why
we had all the plans drawn up to build one back when Obama was president. He gave $380 million in grants, and I forget what the size of the grants were, like $8 million each or something. And we filled the forms out twice. We were working with Laterno Equipment out of Plainview, Texas, who makes the earth-moving equipment that's diesel electric. And they came back and said, your company's too small. You're not going to get any. They gave the $380 million. I think they did that twice. They gave it away to the large companies.
Of course.
And what did we get as citizens of the United States for that almost $800 million? What did we get?
Just about nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
We got nothing.
Yeah. What a mess.
But I've got something to say here.
All right.
It's a new shop. Josh Schaefer and Brandon, his good friend, who are part of our snowmobile owner-operator snowmobile conference. Josh is one of the guys that works with me and Mike Lane on it. Josh has moved back from Missouri back to his home state of Minnesota, and this is their first week of a new shop. It's in Byron, B-Y-R-O-N, Byron, Minnesota. And the two of them together bring over 30 years. They're great mechanics. They are a catalyst dealer in a remote tune location, and they're good friends of mine. And their phone number, if somebody wants to write it down, is 507-250-4757. So, and they are 221 First Street, Southwest Byron, Minnesota.
All right.
So if anyone's in that area and needs work, it's called Beyond Just Performance. I got to figure out how he came up with that name, Beyond Just Performance. Maybe because so many people now have jumped on the performance bandwagon, they do more than just performance. That's probably it.
Yeah, could be.
But Josh and Brandon are really good people.
All right. Do we have anything else today, or should we get to some phone calls? I think we'll get to calls.
Does Leroy have anything?
No, we already heard from Leroy.
I went on.
Bert and Ernie told us everything they know this morning.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. Let's go to Missouri to get started today. Richard, welcome.
Hey, everybody. I know this is probably not y'all's cup of tea, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Got a brake chamber question. I have a 2000. I also have a 2003. Both of these trucks, it happens on them. I got a 2003 T600 Kenworth, and I don't know that the engine's gonna matter any, but they both got 12.7 Detroits, and I could put on a brake chamber, and within probably maybe about 4 months to 6 months, the bottom part of the bolt will start cracking, and then all of a sudden the whole thing will just bust loose. Both studs out of the brake chamber will bust loose. Both trucks, I've changed the S-cam bracket that the brake chamber mounts to, and I've also I've done that on both trucks, and I put a brand new brake chamber on there, and like I say, within 4 months to 6 months, it's busted off of it. I can't figure out what it is, and I've asked multiple shops, and nobody knows what's going on with these trucks.
Have you changed the torsional damper in the front of the crankshaft?
Yep.
You have.
Yep, I done that when I bought the truck 2 years ago.
Okay. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is,
and I do use that knowledge.
Okay, that's good. It's got to be eating vibration from somewhere.
Yeah. I've also redone a lot of the like I said, I put new S-cam brackets on the two S-cam tubes. That's what the S-cam goes through, and that's also what the brake chamber bolts to. And I put those on there, and like I say, I can't figure it out. I don't know why it does that. One thing, one mechanic did tell me that it's probably because I'm using long stroke brake chambers. He said that my truck possibly came with short stroke. I checked with the manufacturer, and they said it's a short stroke. So I go in there to buy some short stroke brake chambers, and he gives me a set of brake chambers, and I've already paid for them. And when I get them, I look down and I said, this is what I've already got on my truck, because it's got the round ports on them, not the square ports. Square ports is long stroke. The round ports is short stroke. So I'm putting the right brake chamber on there. I'm not putting the wrong brake chamber on there. But I can't figure it out. Maybe if y'all don't know what it is, maybe somebody in the audience may have had this issue and got it fixed or whatever. But I wanted to throw that out there, see if anybody happens to know.
I would call T&E in Kansas City because that's their forte is brakes. And
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You said T as in Paul, T&E?
T
as in Tom.
Oh, T&E.
T&E.
And where are they located?
Kansas City.
They're north of
Kansas City. All right.
And while you're there,
I'll give them a call.
While you're there, if you need an alignment, Chad's the best in the business.
I do need an alignment, and I'm glad I'll be calling them because I need to get their address so I can meet up with them one day.
So Chad runs Alignment Solutions, and he's in the same garage there with T&E.
Oh, so that's where Chad's at? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, I just wanted to throw that out there too, y'all. See if y'all can figure it out. But
all right.
Appreciate it, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Hey, I had one other thing I just wanted to mention. I'm keeping an eye on this. You know, I kind of pay attention to what Elon Musk says. Most of the time, he's right. Apple just announced that their next operating system for the phone is going to have AI built in. AI is going to be operating on your phone now. Up until this point, anytime you access AI, you're using it from some other server. Now it's going to be directly on the phone. When I first heard that, it didn't seem like any big deal to me. But Elon Musk came out and said, if Apple continues with this, you will not be allowed to bring an Apple phone into any of his buildings. They will confiscate him at the door and put him in a Faraday cage until you leave. That's how worried he is about it.
Good grief.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get what the danger is, but I trust Elon Musk more than I trust almost anybody else on some of these issues. He's usually got it right. And it's not to say that he's against AI. He's building his own AI. I mean, X already has AI built in. It's called Grok. And it's actually one of the better AIs I've used. But he's that worried about it being on a phone on the native operating system that he says he's not going to let him in the building.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Maybe it's all too much, huh?
It sounds like it to me. All right, let's go to Kansas. Bill, welcome to the program.
What's up, guys? Now, if you're calling them Bert and Ernie, here's the question. I hope they don't share the same bed.
I'm not getting into that.
You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Hey, I sent you a photo, Kevin, about a week ago about a truck. I was just like, th- well, anyways, Bruce seen it. Anyways, I got a question. Well, I can understand the AI because if he don't want them in their building, and AI, it's a possibility that if they're in these developing meetings and stuff like that, I'm assuming that Elon don't want nobody knowing what they're doing. That's the only thing I can think of.
He actually makes it sound like it's more of a danger to the user, that there's no way that Apple can guarantee that this AI isn't grabbing data off your phone and sending it to somebody else. He said it sounds like it's a privacy and security issue on the phone itself.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Got a question. I just got my samples back because I just did the complete oil filter change and the OPS change. Now green means, I take it green is good because they flagged green on my was it aluminum? Because I used the catalyst. I think it's aluminum, correct?
No, it should be iron.
Yeah, iron.
Right.
And they flagged yellow on the base at 3.2, but I already refreshed and dumped the oil, so that should take care of it because they quoted it as a level 2, but everything else was good.
So the scale is 0 is just no problems whatsoever. You don't even have to think about anything.
Yeah.
1 and 2 kind of, there's something here we should just keep an eye on and pay attention to, but we don't need to do anything. 3 and 4 being critical, that if you've got a 4, you almost always have to dump the oil. Usually 0, 1, and 2, we don't dump the oil if we don't need to. We just keep an eye on things. Iron is going to go up more than normal with the catalyst. The base I'll tell you this, the base at 3, I wouldn't be doing anything. We are changing our recommendations on base now. I would let it get down to under 1 before I would do anything.
Yeah, I mean, when I changed out the filter, I filled the filter up with T6, screwed it back on, put the new OPS on there, and I mean, I've never had a problem. I just wanted to check myself. I'd rather have another opinion before. I mean, I figured it was good.
There's nothing about that oil you need to be concerned about.
Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, y'all be good now.
All right, thanks for the call. Did we talk on this show about the new oil weights that we're going to be seeing soon?
Yeah, we did a little bit last week, and I just wanted to touch on that too. I actually have an email out to Horizon Laboratories to figure out exactly at what point does the acid get introduced. We had kind of briefly gone over it a little bit, but I do want to follow up with that whenever I get an answer back from them.
I am trying to remember. I've been reading my own oil samples starting in like 1995. That was the first time I did an oil sample myself. It was 2000, early 2000s, I started reading them for other people. I've been doing it ever since. I can't even count how many oil samples I've read. I'm trying to remember if there was even one that ever showed an acid number. For some reason, it seems like I came across it one time. But it's so rare. I've never seen anything in that box for total acid number. And the way I understand it, and I could be wrong here, I slept through most of chemistry, but the way I understand it is if there is base, there can't be acid. That's the whole point of base. It neutralizes acid. Now, when you consume it all, which would be down to 0, then I believe you could start to get acid. But that's what you're asking them, so I'd be curious about their answer too. But that's the way I understand it. If base is there, acid can't be. And if acid is there, base can't be. I think that's how that works.
And that's my assumption too. I just want to get verification before we start spreading the word.
Yeah. But we're I was noticing we were having people add at 2, and I don't think it's at all necessary. to be adding even when we're at 2. I would let it go lower. And they're also claiming now that the new formulations of oil, base just is not as important as it used to be anyway. We just don't need it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go north of the border to Montreal this time. Daniel, good morning.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Unfortunately, I'm still working. I'm on I-81, Virginia, up to Canada. So I have 3 questions for you guys. First of all, hi, how are you doing? And nice to hear you again online. I'm spending almost my every day on streaming on your application, and
Thank
I
you.
had some inquiries about, first of all, it's one of my hobbies. I have many ideas in researching about quantical mechanics, magnetic compression of the fluids and gases, and honestly, for 2 months almost, I'm using something, a handmade device on magnetical compression of the fuel line, but just on a plastic one, not on between the fuel separator and the fuel filter of the engine. I'm driving a Cascadia 2019.
Hey.
I bought it like this, 400 horsepower, 1750 torque, so it's not a big deal. 241 ratio. It's not a big deal in the mountains, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina. With the 44,000, it's a little bit lazy. But I reduced, thanks to this device, first of all, the fuel consumption. I increased my average from 7.5, it's going up to almost 8.2. And DEF consumption, I spent it before.
Hey, Daniel, before we get too deep into this, I want to go back and make sure I'm following along here. I heard mechanical compression of the fuel. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
And did you also magnetic compression? You have a device that is compressing the fuel. Where'd the device come from?
No, I just created attaching 2 magnets opposing the poles. Because the hydrogen and the carbons and oxygen, they have a negative valency, and they attack that valency with, maybe you have some idea, you guys are older than me.
That's what I was about to say. I am way out of my league here. I have no idea what any of this means.
I made researches every night. I have researches. I cannot sleep like that. I'm not sleeping 10 hours.
Now let me tell you this. Let me go back and give you the only experience I have with this. Over the years, I have seen several devices that are magnets on the fuel lines, and all of them were absolute bunk. None of them did a thing.
Yes.
I don't know if yours is different or not, but I will say that this goes back. I can remember 25 years ago testing this.
I studied. I still make studies and researches. And most of these guys, they use a lot of fakes, because, first of all, they didn't study the valency of hydrogen.
Let's do this, Daniel. Let's do this. I don't like to.
No problem.
I don't like to spend a lot of time talking about something that I don't understand. I didn't understand it when I tried to test it back then. I just knew they were magnets. I didn't even understand. You gave me a little more information. We're compressing the fuel. I never got that from that back then. But here's the thing. I've been through this enough to know that every device I've seen does not work. If you're claiming a gain from 7.5 to 8.2, that's a measurable difference. And what I would love to see is you to go to Pittsburgh Power with this, and let's put it on the dyno and get some numbers.
Yes, I would like to, but sometimes my company, they are not sending me in that area in Pittsburgh, Ohio. Sometimes they're sending me North Carolina, South Carolina, the same trip that I did it last week. So I'm coming to 189 miles per gallon of DEF, I'm going up to 220. So my truck is not asking for regen. Before, it asked maybe once a week. Now, it's going to 3 weeks one time. Regen.
Leroy, jump in here, because again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because one, I don't understand it, and I need to see better numbers. Leroy, is this something? When we start talking about fuel mileage increased by that much, DEF increased by that much, can we see this on the dyno? I'd have to believe we could.
If you're going from 7, what do you say, 7.5,
5
8.2?
to
0.5?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you would see that on the dyno.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
And I'm assuming
And
the DEF consumption could potentially get better because we're burning fuel cleaner, right? If that's the case.
yes, that's the case. And the pollution, the pollution percentage, it's less than before. Because
And how are you
I'm
measuring
seeing my
that?
DEF
Hold
consumption
on, Daniel. How are you measuring the emissions?
because that time that the emissions are too high, it's taking too much. It's compensating with too much DEF.
Well, that's only a guess, though. I was just speculating on why the DEF concept. We can't prove that that's happening yet. That's what I want to find out.
Yeah. Okay. With a full tank of DEF, I was not able to run more than 2.
Well, but hold on, Daniel.
2,500
Hold on a
miles.
second, because
Yes.
again, I want to make sure we stay accurate on this. Leroy, are there reasons that DEF consumption could go way down and it wouldn't even be a good thing? Something could be wrong and the DEF consumption goes down. Is that possible?
Yeah, I had a guy, he's a listener. A couple months ago, he had an outlet knock sensor that wasn't working correctly, and it caused him to have great DEF mileage because it was kind of stuck in range, but at a low value.
Yeah, see, so Daniel, we can't make assumptions that just because now fuel mileage, I understand way better than I understand DEF consumption. I'm still learning the whole DEF thing, but I do realize there are reasons it could go down and it wouldn't be a good thing. There's actually a problem. So all I'm saying is if we are going to spend any more time on this technology, you've got to get it to Pittsburgh Power so we're dealing with real numbers.
Yes. It's going to be a big pleasure for me, guys.
Good.
So I decreased from the same trip, from 6 fill-ups to 5 fill-ups. So I have small tankers, 100 gallon each, so 200 gallons. I was going up from 900 miles per almost a full to 1,200. So I think.
Uh-oh. We losing him? Daniel? All right. Daniel, nope, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. We lost you there for a second. Wrap this up and let's plan on getting this thing to Pittsburgh Power.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Take care. All right. Bruce, do you remember the magnets on the fuel lines?
Oh, do I remember the magnets?
I thought
a lot
so.
of money invested in magnets.
I thought so.
Les Adam from AZ Industry, who was a brilliant scientist on magnets. Unfortunately, we lost him to cancer. He was making us radial magnets. By the way, he made the magnets for like the F-41 fighters for the gauges. He made the magnets for Fender guitar.
Wow.
When you see the little lights in the roller skate wheels and the lights that light up on children's tennis shoes, that was all his inventions.
Interesting.
And he made us radial magnets that were a circle to go around the fuel line because Eric was talking the other day about the fuel magnetizes itself and the like particles stick together, and we've known that paraffin will stick together, cetane will stick together, and this magnetic force was to come right into the center of the fuel line and break this up so that the fuel would be more homogenized. And And so we had those on. We've tried so many things like that.
That's what I thought. And I'm not.
Here was one.
Oh, go ahead.
Here's one. Mark Chappell, one of the Cummins lead engineers, and I, and a Mark Mahoney, were down at Les Adams' plant. Les was raised on a farm in the Dakotas, then went to Los Angeles, and then on to Missouri. He left Los Angeles because he was building a plant in Los Angeles, was telling him what the plant would look like and what the shrubs would look like and what the trees, and Les said, no. I'm building this. I'll do it the way I want. They said, no, you won't, not in Los Angeles, so he went to Missouri. He was actually down by Lake of the Ozarks. He had a magnet that was the size of a red brick, about a half-inch thick. No, I'm sorry. It was the size of a red brick. And the whole thing was a magnet. And he had, remember the model cars we would build, like the little tires?
Oh, yeah.
He had a little tire with a magnet in the center and like a toothpick through it, but it was steel. And you would spin it on the magnet, and it would rise up in the magnetic field, and it would stay there about a foot off this huge magnet the size of a red brick. It would stay there until it quit spinning. And it was friction free, so it would spin for a long time.
Not bad.
And then it would fall down to the base magnet. And Les looked at Mark Chappell, this brilliant engineer, and said, and you probably don't believe in spacecraft, do you? Mark was speechless. He looked at him. And then Les had a piece of aluminum. Aluminum is not affected by magnetism, right?
Correct.
So he had a piece of aluminum, half-inch thick, but rectangle the size of the magnet, size of the red brick magnet. He told Mark, hold this about a foot over the magnet and drop it. Mark did. Now I'm standing there, I'm watching all this. And the piece of aluminum went down, and then when it got closer to the magnet, about a half-inch to an inch away, it actually rose a little bit, and then it settled down on the magnet. So the aluminum was being affected by the magnetic field.
Interesting. Well, there's no doubt that magnets can be extremely powerful when you look at the high-speed trains that can run 300 miles an hour. The reason they can is because there's no friction. They're levitating on magnets.
Maglev.
Yeah.
And doesn't the new Corvette have some type of maglev ride that you can?
I don't know.
Maglev ride.
I don't know.
Yeah. The one Caterpillar engineer that lives about one floor below me in Florida in the wintertime, he has one, and I think he mentioned, I said, when you drive that to and from Peoria, how's the ride? He said, it's got, I think he said maglev ride.
I'll have to look at that. You know, there's definitely been a change in magnets in the last 10 years or so, and that's why you see a lot of things using magnets now that didn't. I think they discovered a better way to make them, or the earth, I forget what the term is. But even like the Yeti coffee cups, with the little magnet on the close. You have a lot of things now using magnets that never do. So maybe there is something new with this that could affect fuel. I don't know. But everything I tried in the past was total garbage. Nothing did anything.
Have you had the magnetic footbeds in your shoes?
No.
I have had those. I still have them. Magnetic bracelets you put on.
Yeah, I've seen all that. And I've never really, tried to explore that, but we will see on this.
By the way,
Go ahead.
When I was with Les Adam at AZ Industries, that was back in the mid-'90s. So
got it.
Spent a lot of money and a lot of time trying a tremendous amount of things
That's what I
to
thought.
increase performance,
Yeah.
longevity, and fuel mileage.
Yep.
That magnetic ride control pertains to the shock absorber specifically. And on the new Corvettes, they actually use a special fluid inside the shocks that contain iron particles. And there's sensors on the cars that read the road every 5 milliseconds. And it will tell the computer to adjust by using the magnets to dampen or soften the shock absorbers by manipulating the iron particles in the
Wow.
fluid.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty sophisticated
That
stuff. I
is
would not want to replace those shocks, though.
Well, that is that's the technology that was behind the Bose seat, not magnetic. They were using actuators, but the same kind of thing, really powerful computers and sensors that were monitoring constantly and adjusting with actuators, the same kind of thing. And the story behind that was, now we're going to go back, and I was still living in Florida when I went up to Bose for all this when they first brought out the seat. They brought me up there, and I spent 3 days up there. I got to meet Dr. Amar Bose. That was before he died. I had lunch with him. He was at I don't know, he was like 90, and he was still at the factory every day, and he had lunch with the employees every day. And it was a really great experience. But back then, this would have been like 2008. They had already been working on this project for 25 years. And the project was an automotive suspension system, and they hadn't got there yet. They had all the technologies worked out. The problem was the system took way more energy than it was practical to try to produce on a vehicle at the time. The technology worked, but it just wasn't practical because of the energy use was so high. But the story was they had been working on that project, like I said, for 25 years. And Bose had its own semis. And they put quite a few miles on them around Boston and that area. And their truck driver came in one day to the factory, and he was complaining about how bad the roads were, and his back was hurting all the time. And the engineer said, hey, why don't we take that suspension idea we're working on and build this guy a seat? That's how that whole project started. And then Bose came out with that seat, which was $6,000. That was one of the problems. It was just way too expensive. But that was crazy technology. That seat, the first time you drove the truck, about the first 30 minutes, I was almost nauseous. And I don't get seasick. I've been out on crazy rough water, and I don't get seasick. But I got a little nauseous driving that truck the first time. Because what happens is the seat would do the opposite of what you were expecting. So take an air ride seat. When you hit a big dip, the truck drops into the dip, the seat follows and tries to cushion it, and then you come back up. That's what we're all used to. On this, what happened was the truck would go down into the dip and the seat would stay completely level. So it actually felt like the truck was going down and your seat was going up. And in a sense, it kind of was. But it was such a weird motion that it was just disorienting at first. Once you got used to it, it was pretty incredible. But they tried for several years. Volvo was the only OEM that picked it up as an option, but nobody would order it because it was too expensive. And then they sold the company, and that company wanted us to work with them. And I said, look, this isn't going to cut it. It's just too expensive. And honestly, the seat, the actual seat they put on it, the cushions and the seat itself was horrible. It was one of the most uncomfortable seats I'd ever been in. I talked to him. I said, look, just make the seat itself better. You've got, a multi-million-dollar piece of technology under it, and you put a garbage seat that's so stiff, I don't want to ride in it. But they never changed that. You could have probably modified it yourself, but that project didn't work.
Does Jackie Wormley still have her Bose seat?
I think she might still have hers. I mean, we had a lot of people that had them, and everybody loved them. I mean, we had two of them in our all the gliders we built. We put two of them in all of ours, and I liked them. But I think, as far as I know, they are still. There may be a car now using some of that technology. I'm not sure. Let's continue on because calls are piling up on us. Let's go to Ohio. Brett, welcome.
Good afternoon. How are y'all today?
Good. What's on your mind?
Okay, yesterday I've got a 2016 Freightliner with a DD15 in it, and I do run max mileage, but I wouldn't have nothing to do with my problem now. But I got checked engine lights and I derated, and it said I had low depth quality. I pulled on the shoulder road, done a regen. It did not help my lights on my dash, so I continued driving. And I derated to 55, but it come back out of it, and all my codes went away and everything except I still got a mill light. And I was wondering, could I just had bad depth, or is there something else I need to be checking out?
Yeah, you might be on the edge of some sort of issue. You could also just have had bad def. So the bad def code is generally caused by low NOx conversion. And so one of the two things you can do is get some sort of test kit, either have test strips for your def, or you can use a refractometer. Either one will test the def in your system. Also, probably when you did the regen, you probably had a successful regen and it saw that the long-term NOx trims actually increased back to where they need to be. So if it were my truck, I would get some test strips and I would test the def, make sure that I don't have bad def in there. And then the second thing, I would be keeping an eye on your conversion in and conversion out, just to see how that continues. You may be on the cusp of an issue.
All right. I certainly appreciate it. That's what I needed to know.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's head off to Oregon this time. Cole, welcome to the program.
Hi, guys. Hey, I wanted to give you guys an update on the Flashpoint. I started using that a little bit ago. I stopped in the Pittsburgh Power and picked up a couple gallons of that Flashpoint. And I'm still doing some testing, but I've been pretty impressed with it. Do you like to go through the numbers?
Yeah, and I think for reference, you were using EDT before, correct?
Yeah, and that's what's kind of impressing me is, EDT Hotshot was kind of considered to be the best cetane boost on the market. A lot of people say so. A lot of people use it. They love it. So we're just comparing the two differences, which makes me even like Flashpoint a little better. But so far, I think I've sent you some data, Leroy, but I'm still kind of in the middle of testing it. So far we've seen 0.3 of a mile per gallon improvement in fuel economy. Now, like Kevin always says, there's no way for us to truly know if that's coming from Flashpoint. Wind changes, I run flatbed, so load changes all the time. The weights, the aerodynamic of the load and everything. So and 9.1 is what I'm getting, and that's 4,500 miles since I started using the Flashpoint. So it's a pretty big sample size. The sample size I'm using before is 16,000 miles, so it's a larger sample size on that one. But we went from 8.8 to 9.1. And 9.1 is not out of the question for this setup. I've gotten that before. It's not common for that long of a sample size. But what kind of shocks me is the DEF has gotten much better, or the DEF consumption has went down. And from 270 miles to the gallon before with using Hotshot, and of course I used the max mileage too. So I used both. So it was 270 with Hotshot, and with Flashpoint it went to 305. With almost changing my fuel economy, within the margin of error, right?
Cole?
Did I lose you guys?
Oh, no, you're still there.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and I'll go back to the same thing. DEF consumption is still kind of a mystery to me. I get it. I mean, I know what it's doing, but we don't have anywhere near the data. I'm really looking forward to the data we're going to start getting out of fuel gauges. Now, I don't know if I told you guys this, Pittsburgh Power.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you how to do that. You mentioned that. I would love to be a tester for that, but
Yeah,
I can't figure out how to do it.
I will put you back. Remind me if I forget, because sometimes I do. I'll put you back in the queue, and we'll get you set up on that. But our version of fuel gauges that is coming out, you will now be able to track DEF along with your truck. Currently, we have people tracking DEF, but they have to have two accounts. So they set up a truck for fuel mileage, then you have to set up another account for DEF separately.
Right.
Now you'll be able to track them with one account, and we're going to track DEF consumption as miles per gallon and percentage of fuel burned. And I think that could become almost a troubleshooting tool for us to be able to watch the consumption both ways like that.
Yeah, and then Leroy, I mean, if we look at DEF consumption, if the system is asking for less DEF, would that lead us to the consumption that we have a cleaner fuel burn?
Yeah,
I mean, short of something wrong, maybe I've lost a sensor and maybe it's not using DEF because there's a problem and it hasn't come up yet. Maybe it's a coincidence.
With some more control testing, you'd be able to determine where the NOx decrease is coming from just based on the sensors that are even on board the truck. If under a controlled situation without flashpoint, let's say the inlet NOx, which is the NOx coming out of the engine, is at 1,000, and the outlet NOx coming out of the tailpipe is 10, right? That's a 90% conversion. It uses X amount of DEF. Now, if we see with flashpoint, if coming out of the engine is 1,000 and coming out of the tailpipe is 5, then that means that there was conversion happening across the DOC, or flashpoint was aiding in conversion in the SCR, and that's why we're seeing a reduction in DEF. Now, alternatively, if you see it go from 1,000 to 900, then you can say that the NOx decrease is happening within the cylinder, not in the after treatment. But yeah, you would be able to pinpoint under control testing where it's happening.
Gotcha. Okay. So that might be something that's happening, that the flashpoint's causing the conversion, a better conversion inside the admission system, not in the cylinder itself.
That's a hypothesis. I mean,
that might be why we're seeing, because we're kind of seeing DEF consumption go down more than we're seeing the fuel economy go up. I mean, we have seen 0.3, but that's still questionable, right? So we might not be seeing any fuel economy gain. We might just be seeing less DEF consumption, which kind of weird to me.
Well, yeah, and then like Kevin always says, we need to do, long-term testing to be absolutely sure. So.
Right. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep running flashpoint because I like it. It seems to work fine, and I'm happy with it.
Well, you have a lot of backlog data on EDT, so you can just continue to run it and see how it performs.
Right. I mean, I was always adding EDT anyway, and the cost is the same between the two products. And with Flashpoint, I get to support Pittsburgh Power.
There you go. I like it.
So,
like that.
The other thing, for just for easy math, I just always put in double the max mileage. So if you put in 100 gallons of diesel fuel, you'll put in 4 ounces of max mileage, and I'll double that for the Flashpoint, which would be 8. That is a little over treating. It ends up being 1 ounce of Flashpoint per 12.5 gallons. Just doubling the max mileage is just an easy conversion and simple for me to do, and that's what I always did with Hotshot anyway.
You said that would be doubling the max mileage dosage?
No, not the max mileage to the Flashpoint.
Oh.
Well, I take the max mileage amount and then I double that amount for the Flashpoint. So if you put in 4 ounces of max mileage, I would put in 8 ounces of Flashpoint.
It's actually a 5-to-3 ratio, and then we have new stickers printed up too for our 16-ounce bottles, where you fill 10 ounces up with the Flashpoint, 6 ounces with the max mileage, and then it's a pre-mixed mixture in one bottle, and then every 2.5 ounces treats 25 gallons of diesel fuel. So it's a little bit different mixing, but you can still do it in one bottle.
Well, right. I'm just saying what I don't bother pre-mixing it. I just keep both jugs separate, and I dump in 4 ounces of catalyst and then 8 ounces of flashpoint in that sort of a scenario where I would have put 100 gallons of diesel fuel in.
Okay.
And that is a little overdosing, right? It's dosing a little bit over the 1 ounce per 15
It is,
gallons. But on the back of the bottle, it says for a premium dose, you can double that even again. So it's kind of in between the minimum dose and the double dose, I guess.
Exactly. Yep. You're still safe.
And it's spending the same amount of money as I used to spend with EDT. So it hasn't changed my cost any, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Good.
But anyway, that was all I had, Kevin.
All right. Perfect. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Georgia. Paul, welcome.
Howdy.
What's on your mind today?
Well, quite a few things now, but you were talking about the hydrogen trucks.
Yeah.
So I had a vision on the hydrogen truck going down the road. It's going to go 400 miles. It's got the hydrogen tanker that's going to follow it 400 miles, so they can fuel it up to bring it back. That's what I see right there.
I don't get I thought that hydrogen was going to give us so much more range than just electric. I don't know why we want to complicate so much when we get no benefit from it.
Well, it's not like you can pull up to the 7-Eleven on every corner and, oh, where's your hydrogen pump?
Well, let's think about it.
Seen a hydrogen pump, so.
I've talked about this before. I can at least plug my electric vehicle into every building in the country. Everybody has electric. Now, I get it. It's not a big enough charger and all that. But I also saw something yesterday that was kind of interesting. They had an electric car. It was a Tesla. They have this solar panel setup that rides on a roof rack of the car or the vehicle. And if you're parked in the parking lot for the day at work, you unfold this thing. It folds down over the windshield and the hood and over the back. Yeah, and it's like 1,200 watts or amps, or I always get those confused. But you gain like 30 to 40 miles of range while it's sitting there in the parking lot. Now, 30 or 40 miles doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's getting close to the average commute. So we are getting better at this on electric already. I just don't understand why we're even messing with hydrogen.
Yeah.
There are no hydrogen stations at all. None. They have to use mobile trucks right now to fuel these things. We have electric, like I said, at every building in the country.
Yeah. And then you were talking about magnets. Sometimes that's how I describe my wife and her daughter. Their personalities, they're very similar, but you cannot put those two magnets together.
All right. So Paul, I had to step away. Let me come back and say something. Every person has a magnetic field around them. And my chiropractor has a tool that he rubs his fingers on and picks up that magnetic field, and it tells him which vertebrae is out of place. But when you are standing beside a person and you both say the same thing at the same time, that's because your magnetic fields are, I don't want to say they're talking to each other, but the thoughts will be the same.
Ah. Now we're getting into
you
some
ever
deep
had
stuff.
That? You'll say, someone will say something and say, I was just thinking of that. That's because of this magnetic field. This magnetic field, and it travels up and down your spine, actually comes out of your body.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the magnetic field up my spine would be like, because I actually have two 6.5-inch steel rods that are screwed, making 3 vertebrae into one, so which have been there for over 30 years now. So that might be interesting if he waved his crystal up there. Yeah.
Well, you know, the person that probably has the strangest magnetic field is Kramer. Remember Kramer?
Oh yeah,
On Seinfeld?
Sandra, yeah, he was on Fox News the other night. Entrances,
Well,
yeah.
his magnetic field. Maybe that's why his hair's the way it is.
That's it.
Could you imagine being a school teacher in high school and having to deal with him?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'd rather deal with him than some of the youth that we have today that
Yeah.
Well,
can't
yeah.
do squat because they got. As technology gets smarter, it seems like they get dumber. Just my opinion. So, yeah.
All right. What else you got, Paul?
I'm going to be a bit of a hyper miler this week, but I'm going to ride around and see if I can get 9 miles to the gallon this week. But to do that, I'm not going to haul any freight, and I'm not going to tow my trailer. So.
Well, yeah, that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple of issues with my trailer, so I took it back there, and then I called in there a couple of weeks ago because 2 of the decks don't go out, and they're not squared up right. Well, the guy I went and looked at it, and they said, "Yeah, we can fix it. Make the appointment." So I dropped it off today, and the guy's out there measuring, and he said, "I can tell you why this deck's not going up and down square level." He said because it's 3/8 of an inch out of whack. And then the other problem with the other deck, the aluminum punch plate, it's bent like a banana. And then the more we look, the more little bits and pieces quality control that I missed when I picked it up. But I've seen it as time has gone on. So, but they're going to fix everything this week. So, I'm gonna go down to Florida. So.
All right.
I'll carry on.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to West Virginia. David, welcome to the program.
Hello, guys. I got what should be a simple question. I got 11R 22.5s on my truck right now, and I'm thinking about when I switch my tires out here in a couple months to go to low pro, and I was just curious how much that's going to affect my speedometer.
So one of the things, if we want to be really accurate about this, we have to identify what low pro. We use that term generically. 11R is one size. Every tire that's 11R, 22, or 24, that's a standard. But low pro is not a standard.
So it'll be a 295 70 22.5.
Yeah, so that's what we've got to compare then exactly. I don't have my calculator up. Does anybody know offhand?
I don't.
Is this like?
I'd say on the average, you're going to be 2 to 3 mile per hour off.
That sounds about right.
Would that be slower or faster?
Faster.
So I'll be 2 to 3 faster.
The smaller tire has to spin faster to go the same distance.
Okay, so because right now my speedometer is actually off 2 mile an hour.
Well, the easy answer here is
faster than what I'm actually going.
The easier answer here is we just fix that in the ECM and not even worry about what the difference is.
Yeah.
Leroy, you use the.
Because I've been trying to run 60 mile an hour, and when I'm going 60, because I got the Eaton automated manual. So in order to get this truck to run 60 mile an hour in 10th gear, I got to keep it in manual because it wants to automatically go to 9th. And that puts me right about 12,015 RPM.
1,200.
So I was just curious. Yeah, that's what I meant. 1,200. Sorry. I just wanted to try to keep it. Didn't know if it was going to make that go up or go down.
Well, instead of trying to do all the math in your head all day long, it's a pretty simple fix. Leroy, don't we just put the RPM of the tire in the ECM?
Yes.
Yeah, so just look up that specific tire. And now we're getting even more accurate than just the size itself. Now you can find out that that particular tire is, the RPM is 517. And then you just put that in ECM, and then your speedometer should be accurate.
All right. I got a Kenworth, so I got the Davy 4 system. I just got to figure out where that is in the system so I can change it.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple fix. So instead of guessing, just put the right number in there.
Okay.
Has anybody tried this when you're on a level interstate? Set your cruise control at 60. Use the stopwatch on your phone.
Bruce, I do it all the time.
From mile marker to mile marker. You do that all the time?
I've been doing that my whole life. My dad must have taught me that when I was like 12. I used to do it for him while he was driving, and I've been doing it ever since. And every now and then you find, I don't know if they're still around or not. I haven't seen one in a while. But every now and then I would find a speedometer check station on the road where they would kind of give you the 2 mile markers to do it.
Okay, because I check mine that way.
Yeah, I do too.
With the stopwatch.
All right. Well, that's all I needed. Appreciate it, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Iowa. Eric, welcome to the program.
Oh, hi. I didn't hear my name called. Listen, I just have what's probably a dumb question, but why is it that I can easily slip shift the manual transmission on a semi, but I can't do it at all on my F-150 with a 5-speed manual?
Because your 5-speed manual is a synchronized transmission, so it's got synchronizers in there, and your truck transmission is non-synchronized, so you can just time and float the gears. But it's also why, if you're going to use a clutch on a non-synchronized transmission, that's why we double clutch. If you're going to use the clutch, I prefer to just float the gears.
Right.
But yeah, it's next to impossible to do that on a synchronized transmission.
Okay. Well, then what is a synchronizer? What is it actually doing?
It's stopping or slowing down the gears so they can mesh. And without the synchronizers, that's what double clutching does. It allows the gears to mesh.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's it then.
Yeah, and that's really about it.
I always wondered.
I don't know exactly. Does anybody know how the synchronizers work exactly? I'm not sure. I know what they're doing, but I can't explain to you how they do it. Nobody else seems to know either. Yeah, so there's your answer.
Eric, you don't know that?
Eric?
Don't know what? Oh, that other Eric.
No, the other Eric.
Where's my Eric?
The other Eric.
Leroy?
Bert and Ernie.
Eric? Did we didn't lose those guys. Or did we? Oh, we did. I don't see him up on the board. Oh, you know what? We still have David on the board. I think I hung up on the wrong line. I saw the right number of lines up there, but I think I hung up on those guys. So, Brittany, if you could, I'm assuming they're going to try to reconnect. So, Eric, when the other Eric comes back, I'll ask him if he can explain to us how synchronizers work, because I have no idea.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the call. We should be able to get those guys back in here. I would think. I'm pretty sure I hung up. What is going on? See, I thought I just hung up on Eric, and it's not working. There we go.
Yeah, he said Eric and Leroy, Kevin accidentally hung up on you guys.
Yeah, I did.
Just got the message.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go to Arkansas. Rusty, welcome.
Hey, thank you. I was looking at upgrading my truck. The truck prices have come down some. I wanted a Detroit, but I run a PTO. I run a wet kit, and I'm running into some issues where the later model 12 speeds either are not compatible for a PTO or they take a special kit. And of course, the used truck salesmen are they know less than I do, I think, about it.
Probably.
So I was wondering if y'all deal with that any in your shop. If you could tell me which model of transmission I'm looking for, maybe, or.
Ooh,
I want an automatic.
Yes.
So you want to buy an older Detroit, like a D-Deck 4 Detroit, 2002 and older?
No, I want to buy a late model one, like 2020 or newer.
So he's looking at the Detroit transmission itself, the 12-speed. And I don't know enough about those to know anything about the PTO on them. Nobody's ever asked me about that.
Like most of the fleet trucks in the Detroit that I'm calling on are, they're telling me they're just completely not compatible at all.
Wow.
After a certain year, you know, I think 2020 might be the year.
You know,
if the fleet doesn't order it with the kit on it, it's just not compatible. And then, like I said, some are, but they have to put an upgrade kit on the transmission that actually turns into the PTO, and then you mount the pump to it. And the pump can only weigh 25 pounds or less, or they won't put it on at all. So.
Where are you located?
I live in Amarillo, Texas. The other thing, I mean, if y'all don't have an answer on that, that's okay. I'll do some more research. I'll figure that out eventually. But
if you
it's
don't,
going to make it difficult, I think, to find the right spec, since I've got to match that up also.
it does make it more complicated. It sounds like it's going to, but we may be able to simplify it some at least. If you don't find anything by this Friday, give us a call, and Henry may have a resource for you.
Yeah, I'm going to call back. I'm going to be calling a few times here because I want a lot of information about this trade. But also, I'm finding, and I didn't want to go Cummins, but I'm being told that all of their Endurant transmissions are PTO compatible, and I'm finding some really good deals on some Cummins International. And I'm just wondering, you know, there was so many different problems with that ISX. You know, talk about the cams and the fuel pumps, and there was a number of things that were kind of chronically to be expected for several years there. What say in the from the 2019 to the newer ones today? Is there some part that you can count on failing, and what to look out for there?
Not that I know of. Is Eric back on from Leroy?
No, I don't know why we don't have them back. Let me check.
Because we're trying to log back in.
Yeah, let me check with Brittany and see what's going on. Hold on. They're trying to log back in is all I'm hearing. I don't know why I don't know why it would be a problem.
Well, I'm not getting my money's worth here.
No, that's for sure. We're gonna have to give everybody.
I don't know of any problems with the ISX or the X15. That camshaft issue, we saw very little of the problems in our shop, but that was back in whenever they had the two camshafts.
Yeah, and
at one point I think
there was a fuel pump issue. There was a crankcase vent issue. I think that I don't know of any anymore. And I haven't heard of any of those cases in a while now. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything inherent that you have to worry about with an ISX or an X15.
Okay. Tell me, I think it seems like the Joel and Henry folks, they're really thinking that the efficiency series that allows it to run at a lower RPM is the way to go if you were getting one of those. Bruce, I think you always like performance and then back out of it. Maybe I don't know, but
I don't like anything that says efficiency. If it says efficiency to me, that tells me that it's derated so bad that you're going to hate driving it. I'd rather have extra performance and drive it with my foot.
But what is the? I mean, there's apparently a mechanical difference. I mean, there's something in the geometry of the engine. Am I right about that, Kevin, or not?
Yeah, if we're comparing the engine geometry, something we've been talking about, and the goal is to reduce piston speed, not just RPM. The architecture changes the piston speed at the same RPM, which is kind of hard to get your mind around until you can see the diagrams and how and why that's all occurring. But the most efficient diesel engines we're seeing right now are these downsped architecture. The Volvo is the most extreme. The Detroit is next. And then both Peccar and Cummins are kind of at the other extreme. They're producing horsepower and torque up at higher RPMs. But you have more piston speed then, you have more drag, you have a less efficient combustion because the piston is kind of running away from top dead center faster. So the engine architecture is something we can't change. I mean, it is what it is. It's not a huge difference. I mean, we can still get good fuel mileage out of an X15. All things being equal, you will never get the same fuel economy out of the X15 as you're going to get out of a Volvo, Mack, or Detroit isn't quite as extreme, but you can still downspeed those quite a bit. The ISX-1, if you try to downspeed it, it's not going to perform very well. You're not going to like it, and it's really hard on the bottom end, and the bottom end isn't designed for it.
Well,
But
let me ask you a question. You need an engine that's going to idle, and you need a power takeoff. How many miles a day do you run?
Well, I run 600 miles a day.
600 miles a day. Okay. And what speed do you run?
65.
65. If you buy an X15 and you gear it properly and you drive it properly, the average, Kevin, you're not going to like this. But Leroy asked every Volvo owner that comes into the shop, every one, what his average fuel mileage is. Do you know what it is?
No, but I'll say this before we know it. Averages can be very deceiving, but go ahead.
Yeah. 7.6.
Yeah, I could believe that.
Okay. And my buddy Al, who's a phenomenal owner-operator, he's at 8.4 and climbing a little bit. He's right there at 58.
But Bruce, here, hold on here, because that's deceiving. What you did was you took an average for one truck and then took a specific case for another. I'll bring you the truck that's getting 11 miles to the gallon if we want to go down that way, because Travis has been pushing those kind of numbers. Yeah, well, but that ISX isn't an average either. It's one truck.
If you take, no, I would, Al's a Volvo, all Volvo stuff. So if you take virtually any truck today and you gear it properly, you're going to get good fuel mileage and you drive it right.
I agree with that.
That's what I need to know.
Yeah,
but
I agree with that statement.
I want to get back to the efficiency versus the performance. If you look at the numbers on the side of the engine for horsepower and torque at a certain RPM, that is much lower on the efficiency engine than it is on the performance engine. Am I correct about that?
We have
questions.
We have Leroy and Eric back. We've got those guys back.
400 horsepower at 1,000 RPMs. I don't know if these numbers are right, and then like the performance is, 500 horsepower at 1,800 RPMs. There's got to be a difference in that engine that they're wanting it to run lower RPM. It's making torque lower RPM than the performance is.
Well, there does not have to be an architecture difference. There can, but there isn't. And there doesn't have to be. Some of this can be in the tuning. And Leroy, are you guys back? I've got him. I've got a call there, but Bruce, are you still there?
I am.
I've got
You still
two.
there?
I've got two calls in here from the Pittsburgh Power number, so that would have to be them, right?
Yeah.
Are we here? Can you?
Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
But so I just walked back in the room. So I think the question was, why are there different horsepowers at different RPM ratings?
Yeah.
Why the efficiency, the X15 efficiency versus the non-efficiency. He's saying that the efficiency is showing more torque and horsepower at a low RPM.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
And
that's
why is
just,
that not a good thing?
well, they I think when they come out with the performance ratings and the economy ratings, they suppose that somebody with a performance rating is going to rev the truck higher, rev the engine higher. It's like, so most of their ratings are either at 1800 or 2100, not so much the newer 2450s, but at least that's how they were for a long time. So they're expecting to make a lot of horsepower at higher RPM. That's how it's easier to get a higher horsepower number. And the economy series is obviously geared more towards lower RPM.
So if you were buying a truck to run 600 miles a day and you were going to do a pump off and you're going to buy a slightly used truck, would you buy? Excuse me. Would you buy the performance? Oh wow! Would you buy the performance or the economy?
Me personally, I would buy the economy version.
You would buy the economy.
Yes.
Why?
The higher compression ratio, the turbo sizing. I like to run lower RPMs, and of course I can tune it, and it would be cheaper than the performance series. And generally, you only get the performance series in only a couple trucks. This might be sacrilegious, but I'm not a fan of square nose trucks, plastic trucks.
Yeah.
So.
This will not be a square nose truck. Okay, one more question. I pull a heavy pulling walking floor trailer, rib sided, 53 foot long, 13 foot tall. With my N14 Cummins, driving like Bruce wants me to drive on the interstate, I'm right at 6 miles per gallon on my average. What ratio do I need to look for in like a 2019, 2020 model? Efficiency, Cummins.
What speed?
Pull this heavy load. 65.
308.
Oh, I was going to say 247. What transmission final ratio?
But he's not going to find that. He's not going to find that. He may be able to find a 308.
Most everything I'm looking at is 264s. That's a really popular number, and it's an overdrive. I'm sure 264 single overdrive.
Okay. Well, if you can find that, I'm gonna.
Or a 279. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, either one of those I would prefer. 264 if I could find it.
Well, I will shop for those, and I'll call Thursday, Friday, and see if Henry can help me out on the PTOs on the Detroit.
Yeah. If he doesn't,
also,
if he doesn't know it, he'll have a resource for it.
Okay. I'll know if you're out of dampers for the N14 Cummins. I've been trying to get one been out of stock. Anybody know that?
Eric?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Are we out of stock on the N14 damper?
No, we should have plenty of them. Let me double check.
Because they're the same as the big cam damper, right?
Yeah, we
So
were.
let me say this. The reason I said 308. If you're finding 264s and 279s out there, that's great. But what I'm seeing mostly is 336s and some 355s. But the 308 at 65 and double over is 1,265 RPM.
Well, I think I'm looking more at fleet trucks, and I'm pretty sure that Endurance is a single overdrive. So maybe that's why they're putting
With a single overdrive, right? I don't know what's available, but you do see a lot of them as single overdrives.
in the square nose trucks. You still do see a lot of 336.
Right. And typically they're running the older style transmissions too.
That's true. Hey, can you look? I've emailed this a time or two. Can we find a Cummins guy like you have Joel and you have Henry? We need a Cummins guy. There's a lot of people running them, and there's a lot of people that are having good luck. I know Pittsburgh Power likes to work on them, but we need some real life numbers on how to set these things up. And I think of the company from Las Cruces. Can we get somebody on with them that can help us out?
I don't know if we could or not.
Yeah, you have us.
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm not sure that there's.
You have us.
Right.
No, I like that we have y'all, but I would like to have somebody that's out there. You know, he's running two of them every day. Henry's driving them every day, and they got real world stuff going on, and it'd just be nice to have that.
Well, we'll put a call out there. If somebody knows somebody like that, send them our way.
I mean, I know Cole's one of our previous callers. He has a PACCAR. I mean, but it's a Pete with a PACCAR in it, and I mean, he collects lots of data. I mean, if we could convince him to buy a Cummins, he would be a great candidate.
Yeah,
I think he used to have a Cummins PACCAR.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for the call. Let's go to Montana. Mike, welcome.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good. What can we help you with today?
Hey, that guy that called earlier with the poor def quality, did he mention what kind of truck he had? I was getting screened when he started talking. He mentioned the truck he had?
15.
What was it?
It's a 2016 DD15.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, one of the things on that, just to kind of give them an idea, usually a lot of people assume that poor def quality is actually the fluid in the tank, but it's actually like what you were saying. It's more along the lines of the NOx conversion happening. And one of the things that I found is the def doser valve getting contaminated and kind of slobbering def, so it's going when it's injecting into the SCR, it's not getting a good conversion in the system. But that's a really easy, simple fix. I don't know on the DD15s on the Detroits with the one box, but on the Volvos, I can change out a doser or clean a doser in like 5 minutes. Or look in and see if you have crystallization, and doing a 90-minute regen will also help clean out the crystals. And if that doesn't work, then obviously change out the def doser. Anyways, I had other questions. I'm having inactive codes on my Volvo, and I can't remember the actual code number, but it was talking about like right header, and then the other one was an auger, but they're inactive codes, and in my computer it's saying no additional information, and I've been trying to research and figure out any of those things, what possibly could be, but they keep on every once in a while they just come up on my even on my ELD, I have a Keep Trucking. You'll even come up with the SPN code, and I can't remember really that code either. What is an header and an auger, what would that even be related to? Because when I research it, it's talking about like cab clearance and stuff like that, and then I get weird auger for like agriculture. So,
Yeah,
have you
that's
heard
not
anything
ringing
like
any
that?
bells. Are you? Do you know
Okay.
where it was from? Do you know if it's coming from the engine, or do you know if it's coming from a body control module, or where do you think it's coming from?
It's in the ECU. That's why I'm don't, and it's in the after treatment. When I go through the computer, it's talking about it like it's when I go and try to do a fault tracing on it, it comes in under the after treatment system, under the efficiency of the SCR. And that's why I'm just really confused on that, is like I can't find any information on it, and even the computer, it's just telling me no additional information, and I'm like clueless on it. So I don't know if you remember, I called back a few months ago with this truck where I kept on having the truck kept on wanting to go into regen, and I was doing NOx conversions, and you told me to do multiple NOx conversions. So I'm becoming very well educated on the whole emissions of a Volvo. So I think I'm getting even better than the dealership, because they said that my depth pump was bad, and then I was able to actually diagnose it, that it was actually the check valve was preventing it from making the depth pump to lose prime. So if anybody has a problem with their depth pump losing prime, test to see if you have a check valve issue is just loosen up your cap on your def tank and let it vent out, and if you don't lose prime, then your check valve is bad. So it's a lot cheaper than a $6,000 bill for a def pump. So
Yeah, that's
anyways,
for sure.
that was, yeah. But anyways, with those guys, a lot of people keep on thinking. I even got the little scope to test def quality, because I kept on having that, but where it always came down to was either your NOx sensor wasn't reliable on its data, or your def doser was actually clogged up and crystallizing and not getting a good clean burn in the SCR. So very inexpensive repairs that people that are uneducated on it can be very expensive at this dealership. So.
I'll bet.
Yeah. So anyways, that's all I got, a little bit of information, but I guess if when that pops back up, maybe I'll call back in and see if you can, and I'll write these codes down when they do come up. I just thought it was very odd, a header and an auger on the SCR.
I've never heard.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. You all have a good day. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Wisconsin. Brad, welcome to the program.
So I have a 97 Peterbilt with a 5EK cat, and recently when I was in the shop, they overfilled it by about a gallon of oil. I was wondering what's going to happen when they do stuff like that.
How long did...
Nothing will happen with a gallon.
Right.
If you double the oil consumption, I've seen that happen, you'll blow the seals out of the front and rear crank. But a gallon of oil won't do it.
Okay, I'll just, it
You know,
burns.
back when
I won't say
we
it burns oil.
road raced Corvettes, we would look at how many turns were going one way versus the other. And on a small block Chevy, we had the oil pans we had were 6 quarts. Normal was 5. But they'd say each valve cover would hold a quart of oil, and in the V where the lifters are would hold a quart of oil. So there's 3 quarts of oil just on the top. So that only allowed you 2 to 3 quarts in the oil pan. And if you were making most left-hand turns like on an oval, then all the oil is going to the one side and there's none for the pickup. So think about your 15-liter engine how much oil is just right up in that valve cover. There's probably at least a gallon up there.
Okay, then I won't worry about it. Not saying it burns oil, but I have to add a gallon every 5,000 to 7,000 miles. So.
Well, then why wouldn't you say it burns oil?
Well, it's been like that since.
No,
they've overhauled it.
I get it, but it is burning oil. It burns a gallon every 5,000 to 7,000 miles.
Yeah.
That's the only place
rebuild it with Caterpillar parts?
Caterpillar did it themselves, yes.
Okay. Did Caterpillar put a damper on the front?
No, but I replaced it every 500,000 miles.
Good. That's good. Because when you said 5EK, that's the first thing I think about. By the way, I love the 5EK engine. With a manifold turbo, a tune, and a damper and balancer, that's just a phenomenal engine.
All right. Thanks for the call. We are going to wrap.
Kevin?
Go ahead, Bruce, because we're done for the day.
The
We
fellow,
have final
the previous
words.
call, the guy that was looking for the a used truck, the 247s with low pro 22.5s are in the Walmart trucks, and I'm going to assume that they were in internationals. And at 65 mile an hour, they're geared at 1375 RPM.
With a 247? That's got to be a direct then, isn't it?
240. That would be in a direct transmission.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a single overdrive. That's direct.
It's direct.
Okay.
So if he can find that combination,
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
be good too.
All right. Anybody
All right.
have any final words? I have
I do not.
CMC this afternoon. Hey, Bruce. The
Yes.
CMC runs all year. I mean, we run until Mats of next year. I'm covering everything we covered in the old CMC plus new stuff. So, can you guys put something together and do? I'm thinking you might need to do two sessions, which would give you 4 hours of presentation or more if you want. I mean, I present 2 hours every week. Yeah, and this week, every week I say it's going to be a light week and it'll be a little shorter, but it never is. I usually end up going over. But I would love if your team could put together maybe 4 to 5 hours of stuff and present it over 2 sessions.
Sure, we can do that.
That would be awesome. So if you just want to put together some ideas and then we'll figure out where I'm going to fit it in.
We'll be in touch.
All right, perfect. Eric, Leroy, any final words?
You just gave him some homework.
Yeah, that's right.
Eric and Leroy, you got some homework.
That's right. 4 to 5 hours of your best stuff. That's what I'm looking for.
Now, see, my best stuff is from older engines, or like that 5EK Cat, 6NZ Cats, and D-Deck 4 Detroits, and Big Kims. And
still plenty of those out there.
The new stuff is Eric and Leroy.
Yeah.
5 hours of my going to put somebody to sleep in about 20 minutes.
Oh, come on now. I know better. You've got good stuff.
Now, I think people like hearing about ECMs.
They do.
There's a lot of things that we don't know about ECMs, and I think people like hearing Leroy describe things. You just have to make sure that when you use something that's only electrical people understand, you explain that to us. But I enjoy it.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
All right.
I've got an appointment at 2, so I must run.
All right. Thanks to the team from Pittsburgh Power. We'll do it again next week. In the meantime, if you have any questions, give them a call. We'll see you back here tomorrow for Destination Health. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always